Welcome everyone to the 2-on-1 Fast Break podcast. I asked Brett Favre to join us today, but he declined. So instead, we're rejoined again by our NFL handicapper Dan Erda. Dan, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Busy day for me. A lot of business travel, but ready to get down to business with some handicapping and kick this football week off right with our Thursday night game. But
Yeah, we both had a pretty busy week, but we would never leave our listeners without a podcast.
nope. First and foremost, we're here for you, everybody. So hopefully, it's another winning week. We had 60% wins last week, going 3-2. So let's get started with going over the Week 7 games that we wagered on last week. So the first one, pretty atrocious loss. You had the Eagles-Dallas over, and it was the second highest over-under of the week last week. So naturally, it was scoreless until 3 minutes left in the first half.
What a brutal pick that was. I don't know what to say. I don't have any defense. This isn't one of those games where I could tell you one or two plays that swung the momentum. It was a terrible play. Nick Foles played the worst game I've ever seen. I actually went to this game live and left at halftime because I just wanted to be on the couch with Red Zone. I couldn't stand just watching these two anemic offenses while I see scores from around the league popping up and not knowing who scored the touchdowns and stuff like that. I actually got into a cat at halftime and went home because the game was that bad.
Yeah, you say one or two plays didn't swing the outcome of that one. I disagree. I think Vic hurting his hamstring the prior week was the play that swung the outcome of that
That's
game.
true, but when I made the bet, I knew Foles was playing. It's not like I made the bet thinking Vic was going to play.
I know. Yeah.
Um,
Bulls looked awful. I think everybody kind of jumped on that bandwagon a little too soon, ourselves included.
Yeah, I also think people are jumping off a little too soon, but that's a different topic. And the Eagles' defense played a lot better than I thought. So Foles played worse than I thought, and the Eagles' defense played a lot better. And it was a low-scoring, terrible football game.
Yeah. So not much needs to be said there. Pretty much not what anybody expected, and I don't think there's really too much information to glean from that. It was just kind of one of those things.
Yeah, bad pick, bad loss. There's nothing you can do. It happens.
Got to move on. So the next one was a W for you, and you pretty much nailed this one right on the head. You said it was going to be one of those close rivalry games, defensive battles, and that was between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. You liked the Steelers only giving 1 point, and they won by field goal. So pretty much exactly what you expected there, huh?
Yeah, it got a little scary at the end. Pittsburgh was in control the entire game, and Baltimore came all the way back, and I think they tied it, and Pittsburgh had to make a drive in the last minute, which they did. But yeah, like the home field was the X factor in that rivalry game. If it were played in Baltimore, I probably would have taken Baltimore -1 if that were the line. And yeah, it went my way. It was a close game, but even though it was only a 3-point win, Pittsburgh was in control the whole game. I was pretty confident with that pick.
Yeah, it's always good to look like you were on the right side. I mean, the outcome's one thing, but a lot of times they say it's the process, not the results. So you certainly called Pittsburgh controlling that match, and they pretty much, as you mentioned, they had the upper hand the whole way. Ravens did have that nice touchdown drive to tie it down the stretch, but Pittsburgh kicked the field goal to win it. So nice win for you there.
Good thing that. Never mind. I was going to make a joke. It didn't make any sense. Go on.
All right. Yes. Only jokes that make sense. That's what we strive for here. Going on, you had another favorite covering, and that was San Francisco. They were on the road against Tennessee. Fading Ryan Fitzpatrick worked out for you this week.
No, even though Ryan Fitzpatrick did not play.
Yeah, he didn't even play, but it was the Ryan Fitzpatrick fade that paid off anyway.
Well, I did tweet. On Twitter, I acknowledged the fact that I was shocked that Locker was playing, and I made the bet because of Fitzpatrick, but I'm not getting off of it because
I don't think Locker was 100%.
He was not 100%. And a lot of teams. There's someone in one of my bets this week who we're going to talk about who is playing, who probably should be out another week. And sometimes I like to fade a guy who's coming back too soon even more than I like to fade a backup.
Yeah, because a backup, at least he had a full week's preparation usually, right, and he's 100% healthy. And everybody's a pro pretty much, except Brandon Weeden maybe.
Except Brandon Weeden, except Kellen Clemens.
Yes, but most of those guys, the backups that come in, a lot of times they're kind of like a veteran journeyman who they they don't have the upside of a lot of guys, and that's why they're not starters. But they're still competent quarterbacks in a lot of cases. So if you could throw just an injured guy in there, then a lot of times that limits your playbook, and it doesn't allow him to do things that he would normally do. And I mean, we saw that with RG3 in the early part of the season, just not being able to run because he's still rehabbing that knee.
If they gave him 4 weeks off and played Kirk Cousins, they even win one of those games, then they are right in there in contention for the East right now.
Yep, and that's the official hindsight prediction of the week from us over here. But yeah, no, I agree with you. So San Fran, pretty much that was a blowout.
Yeah,
not much to be said there. I think, other than the fact that San Francisco's looking a lot better lately, and I'd look for them to start having bigger lines going forward, and they certainly have one this week, which we'll discuss. So 2-1 so far, and then your second loss of last week was the Kansas City Chiefs. You had them giving 6.5 at home against the Texans, and they did not cover by the slimmest of margins there.
They did not cover by the slimmest of margins, and the game ended with Kansas City kneeling on the ball at the 2-yard line. Now, here's why I'm not mad about that, because that was the right football move.
Yeah, you don't want to score and give the team a chance to get the ball back and score, and then I think they would only been up 8, so they could have still tied it.
Exactly. You don't give them the ball back.
Yeah, you don't give them the ball back.
Now, I wish that the defender would have known the situation, so when they pick up the fumble, knew not to touch him at the 2-yard line and let him get in the end zone, knowing that if he's down at the 2, the game's over.
Right.
Also, and more so than that, the way the game ended, Kansas City missed a 4th and half of a yard from the half-yard line. There were about 2 or 3 receivers open in the end zone, and Alex Smith couldn't hit any of them.
No, well, which is surprising because usually he's pretty good at hitting guys from 5 yards and in. It's any further downfield where he kind of struggles.
He's the anti-Michael Vick.
Yes, Captain Checkdown. But yeah, that was a big play of the game, and I liked them going for it. I thought that was a great call.
I loved it.
And it turned out they had the right play called. It's just, sometimes
players got to convert. Absolutely.
You got to execute out in the field. So
credit Case Keenum.
Yeah, I was going to ask, were you surprised with how well Case Keenum played?
It's a guy. Now everyone's throwing out Tony Romo comparisons as a guy who went as a smaller
college. Not that Houston's a small college, but it's not a BCS.
What are you talking about?
Powerhouse.
They're a quarterback factory with Kevin Cobb and Case Keenum. But he looked really good, especially his line looks okay on paper, but when you consider where he was playing and the team he was playing, it's very good. He did fumble late, but I mean, he definitely earned himself another start, I think. And if I'm Houston, he's my quarterback for the rest of the year at least. See what you have in him. He looked very good. And, I always like to root for the underdog quarterbacks, hence my Thad Lewis and Tim Tebow love.
Yeah.
But
give him the old Nick Foles, see what you have in him.
Exactly.
We saw how well that turned out.
No, I was impressed. And if you how many points did they score? Like 16?
Yeah.
I mean, if you told me they were going to score 16 points, I might not have taken that bet. I thought they were going to be in the 7 to 13 point range. But I was impressed. He did a very good job.
Yeah, he did certainly better than most people expected, and as you mentioned, he's earned himself a further look. So the final pick of last week was a victory, rounding you out to a 3-2 week, and I'll mention you are now 20-10-2 on the year. Sorry, so nice 67% winning percentage. But that game was the Cincinnati Bengals. You like them getting 3 at Detroit, and I mean, I think you pretty much nailed that one on the head. 2 even teams, and you would want the team getting the points, and they actually ended up winning by a 3-point margin, but it pretty much exactly what we expected, I think.
Yeah, it was a real good game. There are 2 of those teams that are like probable playoff teams, but the second tier, not in the first tier.
Right.
It was cool. I mean, 2 teams with 1 beast wide receiver to just chuck the ball up to.
Yeah, how about both those guys? I mean, Megatron goes up and he comes down with the
triple
ball
coverage
among 3 guys. AJ Green beats his defender so badly on a go route that even though Andy Dalton underthrows him by at least 5 yards, maybe even 10 yards,
he still
was wide open because that's how open he was to begin with, and then he blows past the defender and then runs the rest of the way for the 82-yard touchdown. Yeah, God, I can't imagine how good AJ Green would be with a really good quarterback. I hope he gets it someday.
I do too. We're being robbed as fans of seeing he's already one of the best receivers. He would be even better.
I want the Larry Fitzgerald with Kurt Warner season for
happen.
Yeah, at least 1 year where he can just let make the magic happen.
Yeah, but the last 3 weeks, I bet on the Bengals in one, bet against them in one, and bet on them in one. So
Yeah, you're not betting on them this week.
no, they're not on. They're not on the card at all this week.
Yeah, what's going on?
Because they play the Jets, and that
Who
team
knows
just
who
so
knows with
you
the
don't know
Jets?
what they're going to show up and
No,
do.
the Jets are very schizophrenic.
I leaned that Cincy's going to win that game pretty big, and the Jets are going to show their true colors. But I mean, their defense is playing very well.
It's a solid defense, for
Yeah.
sure. All right, so 3-2 last week. Good job there. Going to
3-2
move
is
on.
boring though. I'm kind of like I feel like Walter White. You know, in the beginning, he starts making a lot of money, and he's happy because he's happy to be making money. But then at the end, a couple $1 million isn't even enough for him. That's how I feel. The 3-2 week isn't even good anymore. I don't even like that. It does nothing for me.
The topical Breaking Bad comparison. I know. Are you still going through the series?
I am on the last 8 episodes.
You're on
The
8
second part.
episodes.
Of,
All right, so you got some great television viewing ahead of you.
Yeah.
We won't spoil anything for you here on the podcast. But
I have to buy
maybe a little Rounders comparison. You don't want to be the grinder. You want that big score.
Yeah, there's a good one too.
Yeah. So.
But
For
let's
all
talk
you
about
out there, take the 3-2. 3-2 every week is excellent. 60% winning percentage on the year is going to win you a nice chunk of change. So don't be disappointed in a 3-2 week, whether it's through his picks or if it's your own. That's fine. That's a good week. All right. So moving on to the week 8 picks. Your 5 plays on the card. The first one we'll talk about is a 3-team teaser. So the teams are each getting 10 points, bringing it down to New Orleans -2 at home against Buffalo. San Francisco -6.5. They're nominally the road team, but it is in England against the Jaguars. And then Seattle coming down to a pick'em at St. Louis. So pretty much you're going all huge favorites here against really terrible opponents. One of which is starting Kellen Clemens. One of which is, I'll call it, over exceeding expectations for Thad Lewis at the quarterback position. And then, whatever the heck Jacksonville's doing in the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Which it's just like lighting a pile of garbage on fire, I think.
Yeah. It's just a very simple teasing 3 what I consider very good teams who are playing very bad teams down to much more manageable numbers and crossing over key numbers in doing so. The London game is a little weird. It's always strange there. You never know.
Yeah.
Players are a little out of sorts. But I just think the Jaguars are that bad. And like you said, San Fran is peaking right now and really doing some good things. And I think even if the game's really sloppy, which I think it probably will be, and I know the field there isn't even that good, and the conditions are going to be pretty terrible, I still think they can win by a touchdown.
I agree. One thing I do want to point out is that a lot of people out there are saying, oh, well, the Niners have further to travel. They actually don't. They stayed on the East Coast this past week after their game last week. And this is something Harbaugh's done multiple occasions when they have multiple road games on the East Coast back-to-back. They stay in, like, Youngstown, Ohio during the week. That way they don't have to travel back and forth to San Francisco for no reason. And I think he's actually 3-1 in the second game of those kind of back-to-back road East Coast games.
Probably could have saved. He could have saved the team some hotel money because they're playing the Jaguars, so it doesn't matter. They could have flown back. They would have been fine.
So you're saying self-handicap themselves, kind of like playing with one arm behind their back, a little jet lag?
I think they win this game. It breaks my heart to go against Thad Lewis in the other game.
Yeah.
But
the Saints are coming off a bye.
Saints coming off a bye.
They got that bad taste in their mouth still from that New England game, which was a heartbreaking loss in the last second.
Yeah.
So that they're going to come out fired up, and both sides of the ball have been playing exceptional for them this season.
The good news is maybe I'll win this, and the Saints will blow them out, and that'll make a good value for me to go back-to-back and Thad next week.
Yeah, it's certainly possible in the zigzag handicapping world of ours.
Yes.
Where team value is definitely overreacted upon from week to week.
And then we don't have to talk about the San Fran or the Seattle St. Louis game.
We're just going with Seattle's good and Kellen Clemens isn't.
Kellen Clemens is anytime. Like, how is he going to be able to take snaps knowing that the team would rather have had Brett Favre, 44 years old, playing than him?
Yeah, that's not a vote of confidence from your organization.
If Sam Bradford's your quarterback, which, yeah, he's their starter, how is Kellen Clemens the only quarterback you even employ, roster, practice squad, whatever? They'd have nobody else.
I don't know. I'd like to think there's somebody better floating around out there, but I really don't know. I haven't taken a look at the the street free agents that they could sign at this point. Maybe we can do an in-depth analysis of that at some point. But all right, so that's the teaser. New Orleans -2, San Fran minus.
Time out! Breaking news. This is Philly Fast Break breaking news.
We're very good on these. So what do you got for us?
Royce White released.
Oh, that is unfortunate. I like how he was playing. He showed flashes of very solid play. He was obviously out of shape, and he was kind of lost on the defensive end. But I was hoping that with more playing time. Royce White was on the Sixers. For anybody listening for the football analysis, Royce White was on the Sixers. Yeah, we'll talk.
He's famous for his inability. He's for fear of flying. Excuse me.
He might be afraid of flying. I don't know.
NBA blogger Michael Gallagher tweeted, Royce White released, arguably one of the worst players I've seen this preseason. And by arguably, I mean definitely.
Wow. There was definitely worse players playing on the Sixers than Royce White. And I don't know how much Mike Gallagher watched of the Sixers preseason, but I watched pretty much every game.
White might be one of those guys where the special accommodations and the problems aren't worth the potential that maybe he reaches.
Honestly, though, he was very talented. He had a lot of offensive skills that are very rare. I would say there's only maybe 6 guys in the league his size that could handle the ball and do kind of things on the offensive end that he was doing. But yeah, he was really out of shape and just didn't know what he was doing defensively. But I was hoping, and the organization was hoping that, getting him steady playing time, because he was basically out of basketball for a year, would kind of iron that out. But
sorry about that. Remember, Philly Fast Break is a basketball first site, so we felt this was important to talk about.
Yeah, no, that's certainly surprising news. And all right, so going back to our Week 8 picks for everybody out there. New Orleans -2, San Fran -6.5, Seattle pick 'em. That's the first teaser. All right, next play is Oakland +3 at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you like Pittsburgh last week at home, now you don't like them on the road. Is that as simple as it is?
Yeah, you see I've been doing this a lot with the teams like Cincinnati and Buffalo. I like the zigzag. You bet on a team one week and then a little bit of value and betting against them the next week if they win. Look, Ben Roethlisberger said in an interview the other day that the team's doing better because they stopped shooting themselves in the foot. I think they're doing better because they've had 2 home games against very weak teams. And Oakland...
Not that Oakland's a powerhouse.
Yeah, but they're a lot better than I thought they were.
Yeah, they're not bad.
That under of 5.5 is a little bit worrisome for me right now.
Yeah, it is.
But they play very well at home. We saw how good the Chargers have been. They completely destroyed the Chargers, albeit that was in weird conditions. That was that 11:35 game.
Yeah.
Priors look good in all the games except for Arrowhead, and I'll give them the pass playing against the Chiefs and Arrowhead. And I just think that Pittsburgh on the road, East Coast team going out west, going to be a little bit out of sorts. I can see an outright win for Oakland. In fact, I think they get it.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, even though they won last week, they weren't lighting the world on fire. I still think they're the same team that went a month without winning a game. They can't run the ball. They don't have a lot of weapons in the passing game, and their defense is average at best. It's not the steel curtain that we're used to seeing from years past. So
the Raiders' defense isn't setting the world on fire, but they're not bad. They're 14th in the league, I believe, and they send the blitz a lot. And against Pittsburgh's terrible offensive line, I think they're going to be in Ben Roethlisberger's face all day. You got the home crowd, the crazy people in Oakland who like to go nuts for these big games. I think Oakland wins.
I agree. I would take the points in this situation. I don't know if this would personally be a play for me, but if I had to lean one side or the other, I would like to get the points in this matchup. So Oakland +3 is your second play of the week. Moving on to Arizona, you like them -2.5 at home against Atlanta. So you've been on Arizona kind of a lot this season at home.
At home.
Yeah.
For some reason, West Coast teams at home I really like, especially when it's a team from the East who's coming to play them. It's usually the opposite. Usually it's West Coast teams coming East for the 1 o'clock games. I have a really hard time.
Because that's when you get the jet lag. That's the jet lag.
Yeah.
West to East.
But also, I just think that what East Coast teams are so much uncomfortable. They're first off, this actually isn't true with Arizona, but the West Coast fans usually are pretty good. Playing the game at a weird time. Football players are creatures of habit, so when things are thrown off like that, it really does affect them mentally. And the heat, teams like this aren't used to playing in this 95-degree heat. I don't know what the forecast is, but I know it's a lot hotter there than it is here.
It's not going to be 50 like this in Philadelphia.
And then you take a look at the teams, and Arizona is not great. They just got smoked by Seattle, and in fact, I am going against a 6-0 trend, which is teams that play Seattle this year are 0-6 against the spread in their following game.
Yeah, it's the Seattle beats the hell out of everybody theory.
But I also have Arizona's had 2 extra days than most all the other teams who've played Seattle had to recover because they played on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
And then you just look at Atlanta and assume that one of the best corners, if not the best in the league, Patrick Peterson, is just going to shut down the only guy who can even be considered a decent receiver on the team, Harry Douglas. And Matt Ryan's going to have nobody to throw to. When I made the bet originally, I thought that they were not going to have any good running backs. It turns out Steven Jackson is playing. I'm not getting off the bet because, like I said, I don't think he's 100%.
Yeah, he's probable this week, and
he said yesterday he was going to play.
Right. So who knows if he's going to be at full strength?
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know where Atlanta's going to get these points. I actually think it's going to be a real big game for Arizona's defense. I think they're going to, between possible picks and Patrick Peterson's return, they're going to have good field position all game. I think they win. Prepare the convincing.
I gotta say, I still don't like backing Arizona just because how bad their offensive line is. I mean, it was bad to begin with, and then they went and traded Levi Brown, who he's not a good player, but
he's not even playing now, I don't think.
Yeah, he got injured after he was traded, right? But they got this like either 7th rounder or like an undrafted free agent that's starting for them at left tackle, and it's just been a turnstile there, and Carson Palmer's just getting killed. They can't move the ball with any effectiveness. So I personally wouldn't back Arizona for that reason, but
I mean, I just think this game.
I'm usually wrong when we disagree on these things.
The last time we disagreed, it was an Arizona game. It was the Carolina-Arizona game, and it was exactly how I think this is going to be. Very ugly. Yeah. Arizona didn't come into that game and set the world on fire and play great.
Outgained them yardage-wise and had more first downs than they did. And
it's just I think
controlled a lot of those little statistical aspects of the game, but yeah, Cardinals came out on top in that one. So
that's what I'm hoping.
That's your pick again, and you've been right before, and I've been wrong before. So we'll move on to the 4th play of the week, which is another Dallas over. Kind of burned you last week, but you got a little bit better offense going this week with they're playing at the Detroit Lions. That line is at 51, so you like the over 51 for that one. And are you hoping for a better performance from the Dallas offense this week?
Just a little bit. This is kind of a stupid play for me to make because 30% of my losses this year have been on overs from the 2 teams in this game.
Yeah, you do seem to be on Detroit a lot as far as the overs go, and obviously you're on Dallas last week.
Yes, but I'm definitely going to chalk last week up to an anomaly. I think Dallas's offense is good. I think Tony Romo's been playing better, and I think against Detroit's defense, I think they're going to do a lot better than they did last week. Detroit looks to be back. Calvin Johnson looks like he's healthy now, which makes all the difference in the world with that offense.
Sets everything up for what they want to do offensively.
And then when Calvin
DeMarco Murray also might be back this week.
So,
that would help.
And Dallas had absolutely no semblance of a running game last week. Even DeMarco Murray, at like 70% is better than Joseph Randle, who was not very good.
He looked okay. I wouldn't say he looked bad. He averaged about 4 yards a carry, and he just looked okay. He was adequate for their purposes.
Dallas is the 2nd worst team in the NFL against checkdowns. And when Calvin Johnson's not open, what does Matt Stafford do every time? He checks it down to Reggie Bush. So I expect at least one Reggie Bush touchdown, a couple of those jump balls up to Calvin Johnson. I think this game's just going to be a relative shootout.
Yeah, and 51 not quite as high as that number last week, which went all the way up to 56. So you're looking 51. You're looking 27-24. That's very manageable, I would say.
Yeah.
So I'll roll with you on that. I think over 51 is it's a low enough line given some of the exploding point totals we've seen across the league this week. Speaking of which, your 5th play of the week, over 57 for the Denver Broncos Washington Redskins game, and that's actually gone all the way up to 58.5. You got it at 57, so that's the official play. What do you see here other than
no defense and good offense and no defense?
It's as simple as that.
I mean, you got Peyton who's going to be in FU mode after the embarrassment on Sunday night last week, and really, I think this is good for the team. It's the undefeated monkey off their back. Now they can just focus on winning, and they don't have to worry about being one of the undefeated teams left in football.
And he throws a lot of wobbly passes, but a lot of wobbly touchdowns too.
And then RG3 is looking a lot better. Washington looks like, and the worst case scenario I think for this game is Denver gets up big, huge, and Washington gets their patented garbage time touchdowns, as RG3 did the first couple games of the year.
Yeah, I mean, McCown filled in for Cutler last week in the Bears-Redskins game, and he threw for...
It was like the second highest rated quarterback of the week.
So,
unbelievable.
What are the Redskins defense going to do against Peyton Manning and that group of receivers? I think that's an easy 30 spot for the Broncos.
Well, if the Broncos only score 30, I'm looking for 40 from them.
That's like the floor for me, is them getting...
If Brock Osweiler were quarterback, they'd probably get 30.
Yeah, so, and then the Redskins offense has been playing a lot better. RG3 looks to be getting back into a healthy position.
Just eye test, just watching him play. He's more confident again.
Spry out there.
Yeah, he's looking like the guy who we saw last year a little bit more.
I agree. So 57, again, that's one of those.
It's a high number.
It's just a huge number, and it's kind of around where it was when the Broncos played the Eagles.
Yeah, this game reminds me of that game a lot.
And which went over pretty easily for you, but that's fine. Again, I hesitate on these really high lines, but paid off for you in the past, and that's your 5th play of the week. So to recap, Week 8 plays, 3-team teaser involving the Saints down to -2, San Fran down to -6.5, Seattle down to a pick'em, Oakland +3, Arizona -2.5, Dallas Detroit over 51, and Denver Washington over 57. So now we're going to move on to our Outlet Pass segment, taking a couple of reader questions. First one we had was from @TheOrangeMonk. He asked, since this is in relation to the Brett Favre being asked to come play for the Rams, he said, why shouldn't the Rams bring in Tebow, given that this would skyrocket ratings for them and ticket sales, and they might even have a better chance to win? What's your opinion on this?
Well, I think they'd 100% have a better chance to win with Tebow than with Kellen Clemens. People tell me I'm stupid. People tell me I'm crazy. I've always been a huge Tebow fan. I think it's incredible that the second to last NFL game the guy's played in, he led a road playoff victory against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which, how many quarterbacks could have even pulled that off? Tebow magic. He's got God on his side.
And Demaryius Thomas.
But the answer to the question is, why should they? There's no answer to that question, because they should. They tried the media circus thing with Brett Favre, so they obviously don't care about having the media and ESPN covering them all over the place. A lot of teams are passing on guys like Tebow and like Ocho Cinco because they're not worth the media circus that would come their way. But clearly the Rams don't care about that, because Favre would have been worse than Tebow. The only thing I can think of is maybe they are worried that he will win a game or two.
They want to tank at this point.
Like, why?
Maybe get a good quarterback for themselves, since, I don't know, Sam Bradford is the answer, I would say.
Sam Bradford's this was a contract year for him. It was a really big year, and he had a couple of good games. He's ranked pretty high in fantasy, higher than people thought, but he got hurt. He's out for the year, and he just doesn't pass the eye test. And if you're the Rams, I do think you cut your losses if a good quarterback's available.
I'm obviously not on the Tebow bandwagon like you are. I don't think you would necessarily give them this great chance to go on a run and win a lot of games. But excluding the fact that they already asked Favre to play, I would say that the reason you don't just bring some circus into your locker room and just like a Tebow or a Favre is because you don't want to stymie the progress of the rest of your young receivers. You want to continue to run a conventional pro-style offense.
You don't want to see some trick plays with Tebow and Tavon Austin running like some...
No, I want Tavon Austin to learn how to run a flag route and run skinny posts and actually do other things than those 1-yard hitches he's been running all year. And I don't think Tebow would be the guy to help him learn those things. So, they got...
Is Kellen Clemens?
No, probably not, but probably a better chance than Tim Tebow.
Yeah, but the years
I think he can actually throw the ball accurately 15 yards downfield. Yeah, I realize the year's a wash, so it's kind of like a developmental stage at this point where you got Austin, you got Chris Givens, you got a couple other young guys like Pettis, and you at least want them to continue to get reps and to grow as players. That
Demaryius Thomas had Tebow when he was young, and he turned out just fine.
I mean,
No, okay, and especially this week, the game is going up against the home St. Louis Cardinals game. So they're going to have nobody there. No one's going to care about the Rams at all this week.
exactly. So it's a perfect opportunity to have Kellen Clemens play.
Ah, it's perfect.
Nobody cares anyway.
Tebow comes in, you sell some jerseys, you start selling out games. People are actually paying attention to the Rams.
I agree from a revenue standpoint. Obviously, that would be the best option to go. But from an organizational developmental standpoint,
There's 30 teams in the NFL, correct? And assume that each have three quarterbacks. 32. 32. And each have 3 quarterbacks. So that's 96 quarterbacks in the league. You can't tell me that Tim Tebow is worse than all 96 of them.
Based on what I saw in preseason, he was.
Yeah, but he's not going to do. He doesn't do well in practice. He looks terrible in practice. But you put him in the games, and he does things. I sound like Skip Bayless because this is all he said.
Yeah.
But it's the one thing where I think that crazy old man is correct, and I agree with him. Like the dude just wins. Brandon Whedon's never going to win a playoff game. Jason Campbell's never going to win a playoff game. Kellen Clemens is never going to win a playoff game. Thad Lewis might.
Which, all right. So, I mean, I know you're riding shotgun on the Tim Tebow bandwagon next to God. So
it's kind of weird because I'm a Jewish man, which is very weird that I love Tebow so much. But
he transcends religions.
I've always liked him as a dude. I always thought like people give him too much crap when he preaches religion, but generally he just preaches being a good person, which is a lot better than a lot of the NFL quote-unquote role models do nowadays.
Yeah, he's not getting in a fight with a stripper and having a champagne bottle broken over his head.
He's not shooting himself in the foot in a club.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on and on. Negative.
I've always been a Tebow supporter. I would love it if a team picked him up and just gave him a chance, even if it was a team with little hope. The guys are fun to watch play, too. You can't even argue that.
He wasn't fun to watch in the preseason. It was just kind of sad.
Well, preseason is not fun to watch, Peter.
Well, all right. I know you ride the Tebow bandwagon as hard as anybody, so I know where you stand on that. That's my answer. I think that hurts your development of the rest of your offense. So thanks for the question on Twitter. You also asked this week, is Thad Young going to struggle not being the best athlete named Thad anymore? Obviously in reference to your man crush on Thad Lewis. I still think he's far and away ahead of Thad Lewis, but I think something people are asking this year is Thad Young going to struggle having to take on more of an offensive role with the team?
Not be a role player. He's going to be one of the top options.
Right. And to that, I still say no. He's always going to do Thad Young things where he's going to hustle, take charges, collect offensive rebounds. Guess what? There's going to be a lot more offensive rebounds to go around this year because nobody on the team can shoot. So
Thad Young's a dude I've watched play in his early in his career, and there were times where I just thought, like, why is this guy not a star player?
I mean, it's a cliche, like, oh, he always gives 110%, but the dude's always hustling.
Yeah.
He's always doing the little things. He's one of the few guys on the team I've always, like, I'll watch play just because I enjoy watching him play basketball. He plays it the right way.
He plays the Rick Ross way.
Plays the St. Louis Cardinals way. Yes, every day he's hustling. Thad Young and Rick Ross went to the same school, hustle. So that's I think Thad Young is still he's gonna do Thad Young things, man. He's gonna get 15 and 8 every game, man.
Is he gonna be a trade candidate as well with Evan Turner?
I don't think so because he's signed to that long-term deal, which it's a very affordable deal. It's around $10 million a year, which it's not the type of thing that's going to clog the cap. Not that we even have to worry about that because we're below the salary cap floor. But down the road, he's making what a sixth man would make on a championship contender. So the hope for the organization is they get those pieces like the Wiggins or the Joseph Randle, who becomes the superstar, the Kevin Durant superstar.
Wait, is Joseph Randle the running back, or which one's the running back on Dallas, and which one's are they both Joseph Randle? They're both Randles.
Yeah. Julius
Randle.
I
think that's it.
Yeah, I've been talking too much Dallas running backs lately.
Talking about athletes, you're going to mess up a couple names.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, they hope they get that game changer, and then one or two other guys flourish, like Nerlens Noel comes back and he's
probably not going to.
Well, not this year, but I mean, like,
right? Yeah, I know.
And so then you have your defensive shot blocker in place, and then that can be like the 6-man type and making the $9-10 million a year. That's fine for your 6-man, and like he's still going to be relatively young 3 or 4 years from now, and that's what they hope for. In my opinion, I mean, I'm not in the meetings, but I think that's what they're hoping for down the road. So yeah, whereas you mentioned Evan Turner, that's a completely different situation. He's a free agent after this year, and
He's bad.
and he's not, in my opinion, a guy that is like a 6-man type. He's like an eight or 9-man type on the bench kind of guy. So not really. That's kind of apples and oranges there. So
Solid Sixers talk today.
yeah, got some Sixers talk in and some surprising Royce White news. Maybe good news for Cleve Wyatt. Maybe opening up a roster spot for him.
Can we Wyatt and Vanderblue make the team now?
I hope so. I like Vanderbilt.
I like Vanderblue. Of all the guys who are fighting for the last spots, he's my favorite.
Yeah.
But after that, I think I'd go Wyatt.
Athletic and
His name's Vanderblue. How cool of a name is that?
that's awesome. There's so many puns I could have with it if he ever gets playing time. And he's not a good shooter, but his shot doesn't look broken. It doesn't have the Evan Turner no arc to it.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe that's something down the road where that can be fixed. Hopefully, he's definitely got the athletic chops to be a rotational player. But yeah, we'll see. Plenty of interesting storylines ahead for the Sixers as they lose 70 games.
Yes, I was going to say plenty of interesting storylines and plenty of losses.
Plenty of losses, yes. All right, so thanks for that question. And everybody else, remember to send us your questions at Philly Fast Break or via email admin@phillyfastbreak.com or via Facebook if you personally know Dan or myself. All right, so Dan, thanks for coming back this week, and hopefully another great week in Week 8.
Anytime. I'll be happy with 3-2.
5-0.
5-0. Let's do it.
5-0 or bust.
Or bust.
All right, thanks. Have a good one, everybody.
See you guys.